Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
So, guys, we have the largest quake in the United States in like 50 years. 8.2 offshore earthquake sent people in many Alaska and coastal communities to higher ground. They did issue a tsunami warning. Thankfully, we have not seen any tsunamis.
That's wonderful. We're grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, now this is an area that we do see a lot of activity regularly. It's actually very common to see tons of activity in this area. Of course, yeah, 8.2, that's big. The largest Alaskan earthquake since 1965. Yes, that's 56 years ago.
Wowzers.
Caused a tsunami warning and local evacuations along the southwest Gulf of Alaska coast late Wednesday. After tsunami waves of less than a foot arrived on shore, the warning was canceled and coastal residents returned home. Not a lot of damage or anything either because of the location. As we can see here, there's quite a bit of aftershocks coming on in. So, we'll keep an eye on that. And again, this is the area we're looking at. Now, as far as the depth, 32.2 kilometers. So, not a very, very deep one, but you see here right along the Cascadian area, while we do have some quakes inland a little bit, there's nothing going on here. So I would watch. I would expect to see some activity, in Cascadia, as this is the general direction of the energy flow. So, keep your eyes open, Pacific Northwest, British Columbia, even California. And we'll have to see what develops from this. Big one, though. Definitely a big one.
Definitely keep an eye on it.
So we talked about the possibility of derecho, and in Wisconsin and in Michigan, we do have over 92,000 Americans that experienced power outages after severe storms hit the U.S. in many different locations. And, we're constantly seeing an increase in, obviously, the floods, the wildfires, and we're going to touch base on some other areas that we haven't been talking about so much, but that are going through this as well. But yeah, state of Wisconsin, 55,000 people still do not have electricity. They got the worst of it. 30,000 in states of Michigan and Illinois experienced outages. State of Virginia reported almost 8,000 people do not have electricity. And as we've been saying, just be prepared. Honestly, we have a fridge and I don't have the freezer stocked. And it's because I've had the feeling like we're going to get an outage. And I especially feel strongly about the month of August being a very, very notable month. It might be a month that goes down in the history books, and this is what we've been kind of getting from intuition, from guides, and just from you guys, sharing the same things, your dreams, your visions that you're getting, you're whispering from your guides. Hotel evacuation is ongoing in Turkey's Marmaris amid wildfires. So they have wildfires over in Turkey as well. This is a resort city, and they're evacuating people because of a wildfire. And then if we look a little bit over from Turkey, we see out of control Greek wildfires. And of course, we know about the wildfires in the United States and Canada. So this one was by Athens, and such history over there as well. But we did see bad wildfires there last year as well. Storm Everett to hit southern UK with unseasonably strong winds and heavy rain. And again, this is going to be over in the southwest of the UK. And southern Ireland should keep their eyes open as well. 55 to 65 mile an hour gusts, likely up to 75 mile an hour gusts across exposed coasts and hills. Take in the tomato plants, right? Flood flow at Buller River, the largest in New Zealand since 1926. So we have a lot of long-term records that are just falling by the wayside.
We have a lot of long-term. Normally it's, it's always one record after the other. But when I see these really long ones, then I get a little nervous.
Right. Well, how about 22 inches of rain in 48 hours?
Wowzer.
We were used to, back where we were in Nevada, getting 6 inches a year. 22 inches in 48 hours. And where we live now, we get, typically about 5 inches a month. So this would still, for an area that gets a lot of rain, be about 4 months worth of rain in 48 hours. That can cause havoc.
That can really create a lot of damage for people and kind of destroy livelihoods. It's really sad.
And then we see submerged villages. We've seen this
Yikes.
all over the globe. And again, it's all piling up the food issues that are underway and are going to be intensifying. And meanwhile, we have historic cold. And this is battering Brazil. Unprecedented 33 plus Rio Grande do Sul municipalities seeing snow on Wednesday. So extreme polar events going on. Historic snowfall in Argentina in mid-June. It's just absolutely off the charts, ramping up to an all-new degree. And, as we had said, it just seemed like the world changed in 2017, especially with the first of the two eclipses. Many will talk about the revelation sign, of the woman in travail and, that astrological alignment, which, yes, people would have known of that. The ancient astrologers, the Persian and Babylonian astrologers, they would have known when this alignment was coming, for sure, and Egyptians probably as well. There's many ancient civilizations that retained some of the knowledge that was lost in the great cataclysms, like the Younger Dryas flood, and the sinking of Atlantis, and the loss of the Atlantean civilization, the loss of the Lemurian civilization. There's always a little group, or sometimes secret societies develop that hold on to the knowledge of things that the masses forget. There's no food or water anymore. Over 1 million animals killed amid China's flooding emergency, and now fears of African swine fever outbreak. And again, it's a global situation with obviously the food. It's just amazing how all the massive food producing areas across the globe seem to have been getting hit with these devastating storms, you name it. Does seem like it's been, an act of God.
Yeah,
well,
right. Sorry, it fell out of my mouth.
Yeah, I personally, I don't view any of this as an act of source. Act of what might have been taken to be a god in ancient times, yes. Perhaps a group of people, beings, 13 million people in 150 counties affected by these heavy rains in Henan province, China. 1,558 towns, 24,000 plus houses destroyed, damaged. 1.31 million people evacuated to safer areas. 69 people lost their lives. 5 are still missing. Almost 1 million hectares of farmland. More than 1 million animals have drowned alive. Drinking water contaminated. No food and water anymore for millions of people. This is just a horrendous situation. And the thing is, it's not the only one. There's so many of these horrendous situations going on. And, before we go here, I just wanted to bring up a word that came to mind this morning. You guys familiar with the word gullible? Easily deceived or cheated? Well, I just kind of woke up feeling like, boy, humanity is so much defined by this word. Such a big proportion of humanity, unfortunately, can be defined by this word. And now we could go into the geopolitical. Come into my office and arrest my entire staff. Capitol Police ordered to arrest maskless staffers. Republicans say they'll resist. Look at what we were talking about yesterday, the great divide amongst the states, right? It's so obvious. There's no way this is going to be held together. Even super glue is not going to hold this union together. It's just a matter of how is it going to break down. That's the big question. Here we see Sydney is sending the military in to help enforce the lockdown amid record jump in cases. The military. to serve, honor, protect. The military is coming in Australia. Florida County to require masks in schools, defying DeSantis. And this shows the bigger level of potential breakup. So even looking at the states as they are, they might not end up, the same. The states themselves can break up into smaller units. This is Broward County. This is a biggie.
Mm-hmm.
Down, Miami area. This is huge. Now, of course, this is part of the Great Divide, as most of the major cities across the country are blue, and most of the countryside is red. And, again, it's part of that Great Divide. States themselves might not stay together through where we are. And I venture to say that the map of the USA in the year, say, 2027, is going to look completely different than it does now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get. I don't think we'll see anything resembling what we have right now in just over 5 years. And I do think the greater divide will be well underway before then. It's already underway now. But just talking about what will this portion of the North American continent look like, as far as if a map maker was to draw a map in, say, January 1st, 2027, that would be a hard one to predict.
Yeah, that would, just even look at how things are kind of crumbling up in our own homes, how even homes are being separated with these details with the, I don't know, the thing on the face and
The
everybody's,
coverings.
yes, the coverings, everybody is being separated in some way, shape, or form.
Of course, there's so much more to look at. It's so easy, and this is what happens. This goes back to that word that begins with a G. You have a percentage of people that just simply believe anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as I've said before, to me, it doesn't make any sense why we would believe MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS itself. Why would we believe or not believe them, right? I mean, say those that are semi-awake, they look to those, they say, that's the mass media. How could I believe in that? And yet, they will still totally take a side, whether it be right or left, red or blue, and simply blame one side. Like the red will simply blame the blue,
Mm-hmm.
but then not look into what the presidents of the red that have, well, ties to some of these SSs, like, well, what was, Reagan doing at Bohemian? Okay, what was Nixon doing at Bohemian? What were any of them doing at Bohemian? How about, both of the Bushes being part of the,
Right.
the S and B society that exists at Yale.
Mm-hmm.
But then so was John Kerry and many others as well. It's not one side's fault. Both parties, everything is infiltrated.
Yep.
Is the bottom line. Everything is infiltrated. So some will see that, and then they won't recognize that the very book they're holding to their heart has been totally infiltrated and hijacked too. As we were talking about, we've talked about many times the infiltration of the Masonic, and then we get into the group that starts with an I and ends with an I. How deeply they have infiltrated everything.
It
Everything.
is, yeah, it's really sad. When one of the things that really woke me up, and it was a sad time, is when I did see Reagan's picture at Bohemian Grove. That made me sad because I really thought he was a good guy.
I think a lot of people, I think there was much more naivete back in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
than, there was every decade. It seems like we're waking up more and more. And like with the grunge music of the 90s, you guys remember all that grunge music? It was kind of depressing, but I think it was part of the wakening up to the fact that, hey, something is wrong in society to a very big degree. We could go back to the 60s and people starting to say, hey, there's no sense in Vietnam, and starting to refuse and starting to even drop out of society. All this was just wake up calls. Everything is pointing towards here and
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
The decade of the 2020s is going to be the most pivotal, changing one, like, of all time, going back 12,000 years. This is huge, the time frame that we're in right now. We are right getting into the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we see biggest destroyer of peace. China lashes out after U.S. Navy warship sails through Taiwan Strait for the 7th time under the JB admin. Interesting, too, how 4-5 was calling out CHINA so much, but it's 4-6 that's actually, I guess, double middle fingers, sort of.
Yeah.
How else can we put this? Russia, China to hold joint military drills in mid-August. Yeah, these drills are just nonstop now. People will say, well, they happen every year. Yeah, a whole bunch of them happen every year, but it's different now because it's nonstop drilling between different countries. And, when you look at and I'm going to bring it up just for a moment. When you look at the United States Navy Fleet and Marine Tracker, it's definitely weird because, all you're really showing here, so they show the total U.S. Navy battle force, 297 ships. Remember the size of the Chinese fleet we talked about yesterday? 777, and that number, 777. Does that mean there's divine power behind them, or is it more of a satanic power, perhaps, as that means the adversary? This is pretty damn blank.
Yeah.
This is really blank. You just don't see stuff like this before. So what are they doing? Are they hiding stuff? It feels like they're hiding the movement, which makes me think, does that mean that there's something more likely to go on? See, they're only showing 3 groups there, really. It's weird. Things look weird right now on many different levels. So we see, okay, we talked about that. And then there's been so much hype over China as they have been staging massive Taiwan invasion drills and boast it would defeat the US and UK in any conflict, literally having drills now on a regular basis about staging, getting ready to go into Taiwan. That would probably be the way things start off. That's the most logical. And who would come to their aid? Well, Japan has said they would. We didn't really say that. One of our delegates actually said kind of the opposite with this administration. So we'd have to see. We'd have to see what would develop there. But the fact is, it really wouldn't last too long because Taiwan would be absolutely overwhelmed with just the massive numbers, the massive amount of firepower that China has. And the question is, too, would China roll out by themselves or would they have some support? And a new great game is afoot in Afghanistan. China hosts the Taliban and eyes a key role in the country's future. And by the way, there's Turkish troops over in Afghanistan, too. And we've talked about Turkey being a real wild card. So, yeah, the inviting of a delegation from the Taliban Islamic fundamentalist group to Beijing this week has raised eyebrows across the world. Is China becoming clever, or does it face grave dangers on entering the graveyard of empires? Is it trying to align with it, even though they're persecuting the Uyghurs, and the Uyghur people are all in these camps, millions, in these re-education camps?
Yeah, that's
Re-education.
Yes, it's so nice of them.
Yes. We will tell you what you're going to believe, and you're going to like it.
Yes.
It's basically, exactly what's going on over there. Armenia asks Russia to deploy soldiers to frontier with Azerbaijan as shootout kills 3 soldiers, sparks fears of new conflict. And, here you have Armenia, which got their butts kicked pretty quick by Azerbaijan in the most recent conflict. And this brings up thoughts of balkanization. And there was a map put out, a cartoon, a little bit of satire, labeling the USA, or the area of the USA, Yugoslavia, and talking about how it may break up into all these different little groups. Would they be at conflict with each other? Would they be at open conflict with each other? Hard to think of something like that happening. But, here again, Azerbaijan is primarily Muslim, Armenia is primarily Christian, and they're at odds with each other. And this is why we harp on the religious thing, because, again, people are brought up depending on where they are. If you're brought up in a predominantly Muslim country, you're going to be Muslim. That's because that's what you're getting handed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's always people that are evangelizing and always trying to convert people. And, that has gone on forever as well. We have the one true way, only our way. We're on the right side. We're on the winning side. We have the white hats. You have the black hats.
Mm-hmm.
Come wear a white hat. When, all this is being done to orchestrate division. Come, look, we can't have them together working as one people. Let's go down there. Let's destroy that Tower of Babel and scatter them abroad. Let's keep them separate into little groups that are constantly fighting amongst themselves. So, we don't have to do the dirty work ourselves. And whether you believe that's ETs talking, whether you believe it's interdimensionals that are possessing people, whether you believe it's perhaps, humans that are of leftover civilizations that still have higher knowledge and are just basically taking advantage of the people on the surface that had their memory erased when the magnetosphere gets to a certain level, as would be the case. From what science is showing, we would actually kind of have a memory wipe when we have a magnetic pole flip. Whatever you believe, any way you look at it, there's this group, this people in the know that understand how the universe works. And religion and politics are, major ways to keep us divided. Scientists stunned after discovering ancient stardust, and this was actually part of a comet and an asteroid, they're saying there, that hit our planet billions of years ago, panspermia. There's a lot of things out in space. It's not a vacuum. And then, of course, life can be brought to the planet through things like these rocks and frozen ice balls. And perhaps new life could be brought to the planet as well at any time. Interesting, too, there's all sorts of bacteria and viruses and the like that have not been unleashed on Earth, that are being unleashed on Earth. They haven't been unleashed on Earth for over 10,000 years, locked up in the permafrost that's melting.
Yeah.
So what will that do?
I don't know. I've always thought about that, in all these movies that they make. And I really do believe that a lot of our history is just down underneath in the Vatican. And certain people get access to write movies. I believe it's so real, the movies we watch. And that's a creepy one.
And again, it goes back to that G word. And unfortunately, most of the people on the planet are still very, very much that G word.
Mm-hmm.
Still just taking for granted whatever they are told without really meditating on it, going deep, looking in and outside of all traditions available, all sources available. Hong Kong's urban farms sprout gardens in the sky. Again, this is something that's pretty cool. And these workers, when they have their lunch break, they go up and they tend to the gardens that are on the roof. This is, again, over in Hong Kong. But that is a cool idea. And some of these are so prolific. Gardens growing in windows, everywhere there's sunshine coming in. This is really kind of like what we have to be doing now in these times.
Mm-hmm.
And being as prepared as we can. And of course, there's so many things hitting us all at the same time. And many people, again, have been suffering economically throughout the lockdown. So they say New Zealand is rated the best place to survive global societal collapse. New Zealand, they rank number one. Could be. There's definitely a lot of elites that have bought up land in New Zealand, for sure. And it's a beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of away from everything. Many have talked about the fact that if there was an all-out NUKE war, Northern Hemisphere would be pretty much uninhabitable. So, head to the Southern Hemisphere.
Mhm.
Now, Iceland, okay. The UK, now that I have doubts because the UK is going to be in the middle of anything that the US is in. And the UK has a high percentage of people per square mile or square kilometer. So that I would have some doubts about. Tasmania and Ireland are the best places suited to survive a global collapse of society, according to a study, which did say the human civilization is in a very perilous state. Well, I think we could agree on that one, couldn't we? So, a good friend of ours basically showed me an item that her family members had given to her because she's going through cancer, and said, "You think this is good?" And the first item on there was sucralose, the next was carrageenan, and I was like, "No, throw it out," because it's horrible for you. And here's the thing: they always bank on convenience. Convenience is a huge selling point. So instead of basically um, making a shake, for instance, if you want to start your day off a healthy way with maybe taking out the juicer, juicing what you know to be organic produce, and then adding some protein, whether it's a vegetarian source. There's a lot of good vegetarian proteins out there, or a whey protein that is coming from grass-fed cows, that are not administered any sort of antibiotics or steroids, no bovine growth hormone, anything like that. It's so much easier just to grab something that's already in the package, open the cap, and chuck.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do all the washing, all the prepping. It's understandable. And they're banking on that because that allows them to bank on a lot of profits.
It sure does. Unfortunately, one of human nature's flaws is we can be lazy. We
For
like
sure.
convenience.
That's what it is. It's all about convenience. So it's worth it, though, to take the time to know what you're putting in your body. So many things out there have sucralose in it. And it's one of the artificial sweeteners that's used globally. It was promoted as a natural sugar substitute without disclosing it's toxic. It was found through the development of a new insecticide compound. It was never meant to be consumed. Well, let's kill mosquitoes with it. Hey, you know what? If we just tweak it this way, we could throw it in as a sweetener.
Mm-hmm.
Tastes pretty good. Of course, you'll develop the big C a little bit later. So in 1998, the FDA approved sucralose for use in 15 food and beverage categories. You got to ask yourself why. Splenda is the most common sucralose product, by the way. And in 1999, they expanded approval to use as a general purpose sweetener in all categories. Why? Why would they do that? Because it may cause diabetes. It could increase the risk of IBS and Crohn's disease. It's linked to leaky gut. Could generate toxic compounds when heated, make
Wow.
them actually carcinogenic, and it's associated with weight gain. I mean, here you are, oh, I'm not going to have sugar, I'm going to have a sugar substitute with no calories, but it's going to make you fat and give you diabetes and maybe cause cancer.
Boy, isn't that worth it?
Yes, wake up, people, with the G word. The G word. This is what we're talking about. We gotta not be gullible. So, we talked about Ensure. So you might go out and say, well, maybe Boost is better. I'll grab it. Well, read the label. When you see 50 items, don't buy anything with 50 items. That's a hint right there. Now let's see. Okay, what's in there? Well, there's water. I bet you it's fluoridated, right? It's probably got sodium chloride and fluorine in it. And then we got the good old corn syrup, followed by sugar. Yes, I'm going to take this to protect me against cancer, to ensure I get plenty of nutrition, plenty of calories. Yeah, the vitamins, again, where are they? Are they artificially derived? Are they coming from petroleum products? And then what feeds cancer? Sugar, corn syrup. Again, the G word. What was that definition again? Easily deceived or cheated. This is where the world needs to wake up. Wake up, wake up. We got to put out the effort to protect our health. That's the bottom line. We have to do the research. we have to actually open our eyes, and it might mean a little more work, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah.
So we want to thank everybody for your support on Patreon. We couldn't do it without you over there. And also everybody that's been ordering from Medicinal Foods. It does go to help support the family. And here you're not going to find sucralose. You're not going to find all these nasty, nasty things in there that are all about boosting profits. And that will, when we're talking about things like all these artificial colors, flavors, they're all going to be, for the most part, inflammatory. None of this is inflammatory. This is good stuff that could definitely help you to develop. Well, if you want to take it easy, like this is what I mean, when you could do things the right way. There's a lot of good blends here that instead of going out and buying, 5 or 6 different items, you could just kind of buy one of these or take a couple of these different powders and mix them together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to get tremendous nutrition. So, instead of like going out there and buying maca and buying spirulina and chlorella separately, and so many other things, you can go, and unfortunately this one's out of stock at the moment. I think we've had a big push. We've helped with a push, so that's good.
I'm glad. Thanks, you guys, for all of your support.
Yes. But, these are things that are healthy that you could just simply, if you're in a rush, okay, you don't have time to juice, or maybe some, coconut milk, coconut water, almond milk. Again, check the labels, because even some of the ones that used to be good, now they're sticking things like carrageenan in.
Mm-hmm.
Check every label. I look at every label on everything that we buy, and that's not much, because most of what we buy is actual food, produce, and perhaps some fish here and there. But again, look at the labels. Try to get away from eating processed foods that have been put together in factories and all these different things that have been added to them. Get back to nature.
Mm-hmm. That's so important.
Yes. And if anybody needs to set up an appointment with us, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. And Cindy's going to give us a ding.
How's that?
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.